in our series of 4, creating a path to home ownership and giving you an overview of the home buying process. So stage 1 was when we talked about getting ready. Step 2 was finding you the perfect home. Step 3 talked about being under contract. And step 4, the final video in this series, is going to talk about the closing process, the process by which you actually become the homeowner. So we talked about inspections, we talked about repairs. One of the steps in that last closing step is a couple of days before closing, we're going to go back into the house to check all of the repairs that the seller agreed to do and that you agreed were sufficient for you to move forward with the purchase of the house. We want to make sure that all the repairs were done in a good and workmanlike manner and that everything has been addressed to your satisfaction. It might also be at that point that we have the inspector come back to do a re-inspection. If there was something that needed to be corrected that was beyond visual or easy for us to check, we might very well want to have the inspector come back to say, yep, everything looks good based upon their professional experience. The morning of closing, we're going to go back to the house again. The reason for that is, heaven forbid a tree fell on the house in the middle of the night. Right up until the moment of closing, that is the seller's responsibility to address. As soon as we close, it becomes your responsibility to address, and it's the policy of the Francis Home team to protect our home buyers by doing another very quick walkthrough just before closing to make sure that a tree didn't fall on the house or the house was somehow otherwise damaged after the last time we saw it. And quite frankly, we want to make sure that the house is in the same or better condition than when we saw it. We want to make sure that that artfully placed couch in the living room wasn't covering up a honkin' big ink stain, which will be our responsibility to correct once we own the house. So we're going to do a quick walkthrough of the house. We're also going to go over the HUD statement. And the HUD is a legally required form that goes through all of the dollars involved in the transaction. We're going to go over that at closing with the closing attorney, but we're also going to go through it quickly just so you feel comfortable with all of the terms. My team, of course, will have reviewed it and approved it at the attorney's office prior to the day of closing. We're also going to confirm how much money, if any, you're going to need to bring to closing. And that's important because that amount has to be in bank certified funds, which is typically a bank certified check. You would go to your bank, they would tell them the amount that you need, and they would do a certified check for you. And the key difference with that certified check is that they take those funds out of your account immediately. As soon as they make up that check for you, they pull those funds out of your account, so the closing attorney knows that those funds are guaranteed, unlike a personal check where the funds may or may not be in the bank when that check gets to the bank. And then we go to closing. How exciting! We've called it closing for years. It's actually technically the settlement. What we'll do is sit down at the attorney's office, we'll go over documents, we'll go through all the terms of your loan, warm up your signing hands. You'll probably be signing documents for 45 minutes to a short hour. The attorney will explain all of the steps. We have several closing attorneys that we work closely with, in part because they do a very, very good job explaining to home buyers what each of the documents is and answering any questions that you have. At that point, it's many people say, great, the house is ours. And that's not actually true. After you've signed all of the documents, we will leave the closing attorney's office. Closing attorney will send that package off to the bank for one final review, and the bank will wire transfer funds, your new mortgage, to the closing attorney's escrow account. The closing attorney is then going to pay off the mortgage from the seller. They're going to pay any other fees that the seller has to sell the house. And then they're again going to get in their car and drive to downtown Raleigh for a Wake County closing, or Durham for a Durham County closing. And they're going to stand in line. They have to be in line at the Register of Deeds office by 4:45 to be able to record that deed today. And when they walk up to the Register of Deeds office, when it's their turn and they get up to the teller window, the deed is going to be stamped with a time and date stamp. that's when the house actually becomes yours. Doesn't seem like it's very important, but it's important in the following sense. Unfortunately, we've seen other agents that have allowed buyers to go into the home and even start moving things into the home. Well, heaven forbid if something were to happen, something were stolen, for example, or there's a windstorm comes up. Your insurance won't cover anything in the house or the house because you don't technically own it yet. You own the house when the deed has been recording. That's one of the reasons why it's the policy on the Francis Home team that we like to do closings between about 10 o'clock and maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon to make sure that the attorney has plenty of time to take those other steps and get over to the Register of Deeds so that the house is legally and completely yours. It's also why we recommend to our home sellers, don't have the cable company waiting to come in that afternoon. Don't have all of your things sitting on a truck parked in front of the closing attorney's office, because sometimes closing are delayed for a number of different reasons. Hey, at the end of it, however, you're a home buyer. We're protecting your interests every single step of the way, providing you our extensive experience and advice, and making sure that you too have a smooth closing on the purchase of your home. Hey, this is Mimi Francis.